What's up, guys? Cameron Foose here with Iconic. Today on the profile, we are featuring former UFC legend and now owner of AKA Thailand, Real Quick, with Mike Swick.
Nightmares creep while you and me repeat. This bittersweet heat is suffocating.
Soy Wisachuk 2.
Do you think we're gonna get there?
I'm never fucking getting here.
We thought we knew where we were going, but
Not here. It's Soy Wisachuk.
this is life in Thailand. Mike, how do you deal with this, bro?
Yes, yep.
Yeah, there we go.
Take like we are on the street. Yes.
Yes.
We found it.
Right here. Oh, we finally made it. AKA, yeah.
Unbelievable.
All right, we finally made it here at AKA Thailand. It is quite toasty out here in Phuket, Thailand. AKA, let's do this.
Nightmares creep while you and me repeat. This bittersweet heat is suffocating. I'm waiting and always hesitating. Kryptonite desires set my heart afire.
Reception. Here we go. Hello. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
We're looking for Mike Swick, Real Quick. This is Mike with a fat knee to this guy's face. Well done, bro. It's the legends, Mike and Mark. What's going on, bro? What's going on? What's going on, buddy?
What's up, brother?
Low five, high five. All right, guys, so we're here. The legend Mike Swick and his sidekick.
My name's Mark. Thanks for remembering.
Big Mark, Big Mike. Right on. So, Mike, what are we up to today, bro? You're
We're gonna rock it out today. AK Thailand, man. We're gonna do an interview. We're gonna do training. See how you do in Muay Thai. We're gonna kill you on the Airdyne.
All right.
I'll join you, and we'll get a workout
Yeah,
together.
never done any Muay Thai before, so I'm gonna learn how to throw some punches, throw some kicks. It's gonna be great. Let's do this, bro.
Do it.
Boom. This is where we're gonna do a little interview action here. Look at this backdrop. Now this is quite the amazing setting for a gym out here. So it's tough to beat this. Look at this amazing facility that they got out here at AKA. Gonna be doing some Muay Thai. I think actually right here. We're doing the Airdyne hit session up there. First, I gotta take a piss. The boys. Mike was really going at it about how clean the bathrooms are, and they actually are really clean in here. I guess I forgot to read this sign because it says take your shoes off. Shh, shh. Sorry, don't tell Mike.
Custom made small. No. I'm
Custom
not
made
Chinese.
small for
No, I have to put like two together, like a limo type thing. For two condoms.
So you can put on your finger and something?
You can either put my dick in it or a Subway sandwich.
This is the kind of humor I've been getting the last day spending with these two maniacs over here.
It's him. It's him.
What church?
It's him. Church's Chicken. It's this place down in Chicken.
All right, I gotta take photos for the fans. 1, 2, 3, got it.
We live like
Cameraman probably, huh?
15 minutes away, and I left my screen at home. If I give you my keys, his angels, you can grab it.
Asking big favors over here. Bunch of Thai girls saying massage, 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 massage.
Oh, that narrows it down.
Yeah. So Norbert left his screen back at our apartment in Kata Beach, so Mark's gonna go and do a little scavenger hunt, see if he comes back with the right screen or not. So Mike's.
So yeah, I'm not only doing the interview, but I'm filming my own interview. Right? That's what I can do. So I'm filming, and then I'm doing the interview, and then I'm filming it at the same time. And then we got other cameras.
Multi-talented
capturing this, so
individual over here.
Yeah, it's really cool. So I'm filming you, filming me. So like I'm like such a filming guy. Look at this. This guy's filming there and there and there.
What's going on here?
Here.
All right, it is lunchtime, guys. We're gonna go over to Mike's personal restaurant for his fighters, everybody who wants to come to the gym. It's called the Contender Cafe. See what we got going on here. Nice little outdoor setting. Gym across over here. This guy killing it. Let's get some food. Hello.
Hello.
Chicken satay, Thai food. Steam strong. It's going down. What are you gonna get, Norbs?
Good food.
You wanna know what the steam strong looks like? It looks like steamed chicken, steamed eggs, steamed vegetables, and steamed more vegetables.
Looks really healthy. All right, can we get two of those?
Same.
Dos. What do you think, Norbert? Just gonna give us some 6-packs or what?
rather have my schnitzel, but I want my six-pack. So, yeah.
Super clean. We got steamed eggs, steamed veggies, steamed carrots, steamed chicken. But this is the only healthy food you can find in Phuket, as far as I
I
know.
don't like Phuket. I want to go back to Bali. They have really good vegetarian food.
Yeah.
And I love schnitzels.
There you go.
That's a big deal.
Gonna eat this right now. No, will you wear my Rolex while I go Muay Thai?
Sure.
Perfect. How's it
Great
look?
deal. Is this my bonus for after all of these years? I take it.
Time to put on my AKA gear. I'm gonna go do some Muay Thai here. Alright, how do I look? Super Muay Thai-ish. You just told me my pants are on backwards. I thought it was a little baggy in the front here.
You got the logo on your ass. You don't want the logo on your ass, man.
Classic. They already started. I'm usually late to most things. I got fired from the bar for showing up